So, collagraph, essentially a collage that you ink and print, and you can think of it just like you would really any other collage, with a couple of key differences. First thing, of course, always gather up your materials. So I've got some here I'm going to go through and tell you, their various qualities and what they can produce, and in some cases their drawbacks or unsuitability. So first thing, you're going to need a substrate, a plate of some kind. And in this case, a plate can simply be a piece of cardboard. And this is a relatively thin cardboard, but it'll work fine. And I'll go ahead and tell you, it is a cereal box. And we'll go ahead and get the judging out of the way here. So there's your moment to judge. Okay, so that works well. The backs of notebooks, like composition books, that kind of stiff cardboard, that works very well. What doesn't work so well is corrugated cardboard. And this is what most of your cardboard boxes are typically made of. And here's why it doesn't work well. Cardboard that is corrugated is 2 sheets of paper which sandwich a corrugated piece, which goes back and forth there, and you can see those crenellations. Now that gives it a great strength to weight ratio, which is why they use it for cardboard boxes, but it doesn't work so well under pressure because these little crenellated pieces can collapse. And you can see, you can take a piece of cardboard like that and you can press it and it will go down. So in terms of being stable under pressure, it isn't. You can use it. In fact, you can peel this back and you can cut this out and you can place it, into your collage, and it will give you something of a ridged pattern, but it will definitely not be as pronounced as you see it here. So you just have to anticipate that it's probably going to give you some different results than you would expect, and it does not work well as the substrate or as the plate itself. So, things you can use. Well, almost anything, knowing how it's going to come out. We've got man-made materials. We've got some matchsticks, we've got a coffee stir, we've got a little piece of wire screen. That's a particularly fine piece. It's probably not going to work so well. Bigger pieces of wire or mesh will work better. Rubber bands certainly will work. Pieces of scrap metal, pieces of string or twine will work. What you think would work, but it just never quite does unless you just get a really rough grit, like a 40 grit, is sandpaper. This is about a 220 grit right here. And while it feels very rough to my hand, whenever I put it onto the plate and after we seal it, it's going to come out pretty smooth. So I'd probably avoid sandpaper for a texture unless the grit is just really, really big. 40, 60, something like that. Anything over 60 grit is just going to come out as a flat surface once we seal it. So I would probably avoid those. Natural materials can work. Leaves of various sizes and shape, both dried and live. Things like these maple seeds, both large and small. Grass will work. Got some wood shavings here or sawdust. That can work to give you a texture, as can simply soil or sand. So, if you like to particularly use natural materials, those will definitely work. Twigs. Twigs can work, but they will not work like this because we are going to be pressing this thing down, and when we do, these are going to break. So, little sections of twigs, little pieces, as long as they're relatively flat, might work. But if they're sticking up too much off the plate whenever you collage it, they're going to get pressed down, and you're going to get a different result than you're anticipating. All these things, when I talk about different results, sometimes you just don't know what you'll get until you try it. And that's kind of a part of this process, is that it often comes up with some surprising things. So it's nothing, it's not that anything is forbidden. If we were in the classroom and, well, even not in the classroom, I would avoid jagged metal parts. Certainly they would destroy our blankets and maybe damage our press. And when you go to print them here, they might damage your hands. So When it comes to very sharp things, just be careful about those, because those are not going to work so well. And then I have here some acrylic mixing glaze, which actually came from the hardware store, but it is effectively the same thing as an acrylic medium. So if you have acrylic medium from, using acrylic paints, that will work. Or the truth is, acrylic paints will work. So if you've got some acrylic paints around the house, the color obviously is immaterial. That's not going to matter. What we're looking for is the binding qualities of the acrylic. But acrylic paints will totally work. Mod Podge will work. Elmer's glue will work. Just about any type of water-based glue or acrylic polymer will work for both putting these together and for doing our final coat. So we'll come back in just a moment and we'll put one of these together.